The listeners of this podcast should know that this is not my personal property. This is stories written from other people and research that I have performed myself. Listener discretion is advised. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Devin Zahn, and welcome to episode 3 of Tales for the Dark, Creepy Internet Stories. We got a good show for you guys today. We got not 2, but 3 stories, including our first true paranormal story, which, you guys probably already have heard, but it's still another piece of content for you guys to enjoy. So, let me get right into our housekeeping here. I am in the process of setting up an Instagram, but I do officially have my email live, so you guys can send me personal stories, suggestions on what stories I should do, anything macabre you can send my way. It's going to be talesforthedarkcis@gmail.com. I will post it in the description as well, so you guys can get it that way. Otherwise, I already did post the email to my site, my Facebook site. We got a couple other things to go through before we get into the actual stories. I got a taste test. I'm actually going to keep going on with the dad jokes from last episode because I did have some positive reception with that, and it really does lighten the mood a bit before we get into the darker stuff. And as always, I tend to choose the darker stuff. So let's get right into these dad jokes here. Let's see here. Oh, I see. Okay. Where do you learn to make a banana split? Sunday school. I mean, that's pretty good. I mean, it's spelt Sunday like, yeah, you get it. Okay. What has more letters than the alphabet? The post office. Maybe I just read it too slow. I don't really get it. Okay. Yeah, I'm just going to move on from that one. Ugh. Okay. Dad, did you get a haircut? No, I cut them all. Yeah, that one's definitely a dad joke. That one's a little bit of a thinker, so I don't know. I mean, I wish I had my other ones, because they were so much better. Why don't eggs tell jokes? They'd crack each other up. See, that's more of my humor, right there. Okay, I'll take that one. So I got 2 more. Let me see here. How do you act to get a squirrel to like you? Act like a nut. Well, yeah. Okay, I kind of like that one. Why couldn't the bicycle stand up by itself? It was too tired. See, some of these are pretty good. I will say that. So that is our dad jokes. Like I said, I got a couple more housekeeping things before we get into the actual story, including our taste test. I will post a picture of this to the Facebook page as well as Instagram once I get that finally set up. So, without further ado, let me pull out the food and we can get to testing. Alright, so we got a couple different things to try today. One of them being given to me from my good friends Kurt and Krista over at the Strange Sessions podcast. And that would be, oh god, original worm snacks, larvettes, barbecue flavored mealworms. They are also expired from October of last year, so I really hope they're okay, because they do not look that appetizing. So, our second one is going to be Big Mama pickled sausage. So that one might be a little awkward too. So I think I'm going to start with the pickled sausage, the Big Mama pickled sausage. I did post these, like always, to the Facebook page, so you're more than welcome to check it out there. And I actually got this pickled sausage at where I work, which would be Manitowoc Shell. So, yeah, pickled sausage. Let's give it a shot. It basically looks like a cold hot dog, to be honest. Let's see here. Oh, I do not know how I feel about that. I thought I was going to like this. Oh. It's like someone squirted, just like in, you know how they fill like jelly donuts? It's like they did that, but with pickle juice. Oh, that was not good. Actually, I'm not really sure how I feel about it. I can tell you one thing though, I'm not going to be buying another one. Oh my god. I almost want to wash it down with some of these worms. Okay, so Big Mama's pickled sausage, not a recommend. I am actually very sad that I spent money on this. Oh god. I was looking forward to that. Come on. Alright, well, Big Mama pickled sausage, what would I give you? That's gotta be a 4. That is... No, that's gotta be a 3. I would not recommend this. It is... I mean, I know pickled things are supposed to be a little bit more spicy, but that was just not good. So, Big Mama pickled sausage, 3 out of 10. Stop making stuff. Just kidding. It's your life. Now for the part that I was actually dreading the most. I don't want to do this. I knew I was going to be eating... Oh my god, they're crunchy. Okay. Well, this is a show about creepy stuff, isn't it? And I'm doing more bugs next week, too. I mean, they're just not here in time for me to record this. Oh my god. Okay. Alright, so we got larvettes. These are mealworms that are edible. I mean, obviously any bug's pretty much edible, but they are barbecue flavored. They are expired, and they do not look good. I don't want to do this. Oh god. Okay. Here we go. Oh, no. Yeah, see, I don't like that. Nope. I chose some really bad ones this week. Oh my god. I mean, flavor's not too bad on them, but that texture, though, that texture is just horrible. I don't even want another one. Oh my god, there's like crumbs of them. Crumbs of like dead mealworms in this bag. Oh my gosh. Oh my god. At least they don't have legs, or big legs, so they don't get stuck in your teeth like crickets do, but... Larvettes. What would I give them? Can I give them a negative number? Oh my god, I knew I was going to eat some bugs on this podcast. I just knew it. Yeah, that's like a negative 500 right there. I got 2 of the worst things in the world of all things I could either buy or get. Oh my god. Thank you, Kurt and Krista, for the mealworms, but never again am I doing mealworms. Ever again. Nope. What would I give the mealworms out of 10? Oh, that's a 0. That is such a 0. And I still got the pickled sausage in my teeth. Oh god. Yep, this is how I do it for you guys. I torture myself. Okay. So you guys don't have to listen to me suffer through this anymore. We're gonna get into our stories. So yeah, let me pull that up on my phone and we'll get into it. Alright, so as usual, we are going to start out with our Creepypasta story. This is another Creepypasta off the Creepypasta.Wiki site, although this one does not have a credited author. So, if anyone does know the actual author of this story, please give me a shout out in the comments or via personal message on Facebook. This is our first story for the day, and this one is called The Russian Sleep Experiment. I did tease this on the Facebook page with a picture, very grotesque picture of one of the patients, apparently, supposedly. But this is a very famous creepypasta. So we're going to start out with the creepypasta again today. So this is The Russian Sleep Experiment. Russian researchers in the late 1940s kept 5 people awake for 15 days using an experimental gas-based stimulant. They were kept in a sealed environment to carefully monitor their oxygen intake so the gas didn't kill them, since it was toxic in high concentrations. That was before closed-circuit cameras, so they had only microphones and 5-inch thick glass porthole-sized windows into the chamber to monitor them. The chamber was stocked with books, cots to sleep on but no bedding, running water and toilet, and dried food to last all 5 over a month. The test subjects were political prisoners deemed enemies of the state during World War II. Everything was fine for the first 5 days. The subjects hardly complained, having been promised falsely that they would be freed if they submitted to the test and did not sleep for 30 days. Their conversations and activities were monitored, and it was noted that they continued to talk about increasingly traumatic incidents in their past, and the general tone of their conversations took on a darker aspect after the 4-day mark. After 5 days, they started to complain about the circumstances and events that led them to where they were and started to demonstrate severe paranoia. They stopped talking to each other and began alternately whispering to the microphones and one-way mirrored portholes. Oddly, they all seemed to think they could win the trust of the experimenters by turning over their comrades and other subjects in captivity with them. At first, the researchers suspected that this was an effect of the gas itself. After 9 days, the first of them started screaming. He ran the length of the chamber, repeatedly yelling at the top of his lungs for 3 hours straight. He continued attempting to scream, but was only able to produce occasional squeaks. The researchers postulated that he had physically torn his vocal cords. The most surprising thing about this behavior is how the other captives reacted to it, or rather, didn't react to it. They continued whispering to the microphones until the second of the captives started to scream. The 2 non-screaming captives took the books apart, smeared page after page with their own feces, and pasted them calmly over the glass portholes. The screaming promptly stopped, and so did the whispering to the microphones. After 3 more days passed, the researchers checked the microphones hourly to make sure they were working, since they thought it was impossible that no sound could be coming with 5 people inside. The oxygen consumption in the chamber indicated that all 5 must still be alive. In fact, it was the amount of oxygen 5 people would consume at a very heavy level of strenuous exercise. On the morning of the 14th day, the researchers did something they said they would not do to get a reaction from the captives. They used the intercom inside the chamber, hoping to provoke any response from the captives they were afraid were either dead or vegetables. They announced, "We are opening the chamber to test the microphones. Step away from the door and lie flat on the floor, or you will be shot. Compliance will earn one of you your immediate freedom." To their surprise, they heard a single phrase come in a calm voice respond, "We no longer want to be freed." Debate broke out among the researchers and the military forces funding the research. Unable to provoke any more response using the intercom, it was finally decided to open the chamber at midnight on the 15th day. The chamber was flushed of the stimulant gas and filled with fresh air, and immediately voices from the microphones began to object. 3 different voices began begging, as if pleading for the life of loved ones to turn the gas back on. The chamber was opened, and soldiers sent in to retrieve the test subjects. They began to scream louder than ever, and so did the soldiers when they saw what was inside. 4 of the 5 subjects were still alive, although no one could rightly call the state that any of them in life. The food rations past day 5 had not been so much as touched. There were chunks of meat from the dead test subject's thighs and chest stuffed into the drain in the center of the chamber, blocking the drain and allowing 4 inches of water to accumulate on the floor. Precisely how much water on the floor was actually blood was never determined. All 4 surviving test subjects also had large portions of muscle and skin torn away from their bodies. The destruction of flesh and exposed bone on their fingertips indicated that the wounds were inflicted by hand, not with teeth as the researchers had initially thought. Closer examination of the position and angles of the wounds indicated that most, if not all of them, were self-inflicted. The abdominal organs below the rib cage of all 4 test subjects had been removed. While the heart, lungs, and diaphragm remained in place, the skin and most of the muscles attached to the ribs had been ripped off, exposing the lungs through the rib cage. All the blood vessels and organs remained intact. They had just been taken out and laid out on the floor, fanning out around the eviscerated but still living bodies of the subjects. The digestive tract of all 4 could be seen to be working, digesting food. It quickly became apparent that what they were digesting was their own flesh that they had ripped off and eaten over the course of the few days. Most of the soldiers were Russian special operatives at the facility, but still, many refused to return to the chamber to remove the test subjects. They continued to scream to be left in the chamber and alternately begged and demanded that the gas be turned back on, lest they fall asleep. To everyone's surprise, the test subjects put up a fierce fight in the process of being removed from the chamber. One of the Russian soldiers died from having his throat ripped out. Another was gravely injured by having his testicles ripped off and an artery in his leg severed by one of the subject's teeth. Another 5 of the soldiers lost their lives, if you count the ones that committed suicide in the weeks following the incident. In the struggle, one of the 4 living subjects had his spleen ruptured and he bled out almost immediately. The medical researchers attempted to sedate him, but this proved impossible. He was injected with more than 10 times the human dose of a morphine derivative and still fought like a cornered animal, breaking the ribs and arm of one doctor. When heart was seen to beat for a full 2 minutes after he bled out to the point there was more blood in his vascular system than blood. Even after it stopped, he continued to scream and flail for another 3 minutes, struggling to attack anyone in reach, just repeating the word "more" over and over, weaker and weaker, until he went silent. The surviving 3 test subjects were heavily restrained and moved to a medical facility. The 2 with intact vocal cords continuously begged for the gas, demanding to be kept awake. The most injured of the 3 were taken to the only surgical operating room that the facility had. In the process of preparing the subject to have his organs placed back within his body, it was found that he was effectively immune to the sedative they had given him to prepare him for the surgery. He fought furiously against his restraints when the anesthetic gas was brought out to put him under. He managed to tear most of the way through a 4-inch wide leather strap on one wrist, even through the weight of a 200-pound soldier holding that wrist as well. It took only a little more anesthetic than normal to put him under, and the instant his eyelids fluttered and closed, his heart stopped. In the autopsy of the test subject that died on the operating table, it was found that his blood had triple the normal level of oxygen. His muscles that were still attached to his skeleton were badly torn. He had broken 9 bones in his struggle to not be subdued. Most of them were from the force of his own muscles that had exerted on them. The second survivor had been the first of the group of 5 to start screaming. His vocal cords destroyed, he was unable to beg or object to surgery, and he only reacted by shaking his head violently in disapproval when the anesthetic gas was brought near him. He shook his head yes when someone suggested reluctantly that they try the surgery without anesthetic, and did not react for the entire 6-hour procedure of replacing his abdominal organs and attempting to cover them with what remained of his skin. The surgeon presiding stated repeatedly that it should be medically possible for the patient to still be alive. One terrified nurse assisting the surgery stated that she had seen the patient's mouth curl into a smile several times whenever his eyes met hers. When the surgery ended, the subject looked at the surgeon and began to wheeze loudly, attempting to talk while struggling. Assuming this must be something of drastic importance, the surgeon had a pen and pad fetched so the patient could write his message. It was simple. Keep cutting. The other 2 test subjects were given the same surgery, both without anesthetic as well. Although they had to be injected with a paralytic for the duration of the operation, the surgeon found it impossible to perform it while the patients laughed continuously. Once paralyzed, the subjects could only follow the attending researchers with their eyes. The paralytic cleared their system in an abnormally short period amount of time, and they were soon trying to escape their bonds. The moment they could speak, they were asking again for the stimulant gas. The researchers tried asking why they had injured themselves, why they had ripped out their own guts, and why they wanted to be given the gas again. Only one response was given: I must remain awake. All 3 subjects' restraints were reinforced and they were placed back into the chamber, awaiting determination as to what should be done with them. The researchers, facing the wrath of their military benefactors for having failed the stated goals of their project, considered euthanizing the surviving subjects. The commanding officer, an ex-KGB, instead saw potential and wanted to see what would happen if they were put back on the gas. The researchers strongly objected, but were overruled. In preparation for being sealed in the chamber again, the subjects were connected to an EEG monitor that had their restraints padded for long-term confinement. To everyone's surprise, all 3 stopped struggling the moment it was let slip that they were going back on the gas. It was obvious that at this point, all 3 were putting up a great struggle to stay awake. One of the subjects that could speak was humming loudly and continuously. The mute subject was straining his legs against the leather bonds with all his might. First left, then right, then left again for something to focus on. The remaining subject was holding his head off his pillow and blinking rapidly. Having been the first to be wired for EEG, most of the researchers were monitoring his brain waves Many of the researchers monitoring his brainwaves were in surprise. They were normal most of the time, but sometimes flatlined inexplicably. It looked as if he were repeatedly suffering brain death before returning to normal. As they focused on paper scrolling out of the brainwave monitor, only one nurse saw his eyes slip shut at the same moment his head hit the pillow. His brainwaves immediately changed to that of dead sleep, then flatlined for the last time as his heart simultaneously stopped. The only remaining subject that could speak started screaming to be sealed in now. His brainwaves showed the same flat lines as the one who had just died from falling asleep. The commander gave the order to seal the chamber with both subjects inside, as well as 3 researchers. One of the 3 named immediately drew his gun and shot the commander point blank between the eyes, then turned the gun on the mute subject and blew his brains out as well. He pointed his gun at the remaining subject, still restrained to a bed as the remaining members of the medical and research team fled the room. "I won't be locked in here with these things, not with you," he screamed. "What are you?" he demanded. "I must know," as he pointed the gun at him. The subject smiled. "Have you forgotten so easily?" the subject asked. "We are you. We are the madness that lurks within you all, begging to be free at every moment in your deepest animal mind. We are what you hide from in your beds every night. We are what you sedate into silence and paralysis when you go to the nocturnal haven where we cannot tread." The researcher paused, then aimed at the subject's heart and fired. The EEG flatlined as the subject weakly choked out, "So nearly free." All right. Well, that was the Russian sleep experiment. That was actually requested by one of our listeners, so thank you for the suggestion. It was actually a pretty decent story. Kind of grew on me towards the end there. I actually wasn't kind of digging it when I first started reading it. I mean, there's a lot of grammatical errors. It's hard to kind of figure out when you're supposed to pause. And, it's a good story, though. I mean, all in all, the writing could definitely use some work. With that being said, what do I think of this creepypasta? It was fantastic. I mean, I gotta say, it was pretty good. But I will say I do have a few complaints. The writing style does get a little gory for my taste. I mean, gore really isn't that scary for me. I mean, it's overdone, it's overused. Every video game, every movie you see, there's gore. And they don't rely on the good stuff. They don't rely on the creep factor or, for videos, jump scares in video games, I should say. But all in all, it was a fantastic story. I mean, we always wondered what happened in like the Cold War, World War II, with all these experimentations done between, Russians, Germans, hell, even Americans. So this is it is conceivable in a way, but in another way, it's also not because a gas that makes you literally rip open your own stomach and eat it to the point where you can see your lungs, you would be dead by that point. All in all, what would I give this story out of 10? We got a short story here, so I would probably give it a solid 8. No, I would give it a 7. It's a good story, but it's not what I was expecting. I know this story is pretty famous and everything, but between the gore, the grammatical errors, and everything, I'm sorry for being so critical, but that's what I do. I would have to say a 7. It's good, but it's just not the best. So, that will be our first story. We actually clocked out pretty early here, at 18 minutes for the story from the response at the end to the beginning. So we got 2 more stories today because we do have shorter subjects today. But the next one is going to be our true crime story. So let me pull that up and we can get right into it. So for our true crime story, this podcast, we will be covering Richard Ramirez, aka the Nightstalker. The Nightstalker is a whole new level of messed up. Again, his name is Richard Ramirez, and this is one killer that goes beyond the standard for serial killers, because he was one of the most well-known and brutal killers in history. He was a rapist and a thief who murdered at least 13 people in California from 1984 to 1985. His crimes are considered some of the most sadistic, but just who was the Nightstalker? Richard was the youngest of 5 kids who were born to immigrants of Mexico growing up in El Paso, Texas. He was born to Mercedes and Julian Ramirez. Ramirez supposedly received multiple head injuries from the young age of 5 after he fell from a swing and was knocked unconscious. This caused him to experience epileptic seizures and epileptic episodes in the early years of his life. Reports indicate that at 12 or 13, his cousin, who so happened to be a Vietnam War vet, showed him photographs of women he tortured, raped, and killed in Vietnam. This led to Richard witnessing the murder of his cousin's wife by his cousin's hand. This is about the time Richard Ramirez started down a dark path. He started breaking into the homes of others, and he was arrested for the possession of marijuana in 1977. After a while, he dropped out of his high school to move to Los Angeles, where he continued to commit petty crimes. He had gotten into harder drugs, Satanism, and ultimately, this led to being taken into custody for stealing a car in 1981, then again in 1984. He also let his hygiene go as well, meaning he didn't clean himself. This ultimately leads him down a darker path, culminating in his first fatal crime. And at this point, like in my Ted Bundy research, I will be reading as many of the victims' names as I can in order to preserve their memory and honor them. I will do my best to name all these guys, and obviously ladies, to keep their memory alive. Just know that you are not forgotten, and I am very sorry for what this guy did to you guys. So, Ramirez's first victim was Jenny Vincow, who was 79 years old. She was killed on June 27, 1984, when Richard broke into and burgled her home. His next two victims were both killed on the same day on March 17, 1985. Ramirez, after attacking and failing to kill 20-year-old Maria Hernandez, shot and killed 34-year-old Dale Okazashi in her own home in Rosemead, California. Then a short time later, that same day, Richard dragged 30-year-old Tsai Lian Yu from her car and killed her. The scary thought with Ramirez is that he didn't always have a particular person in mind. This shows when he broke into 64-year-old Vincent Zizara's home on March 27, 1985, and killed him in his sleep. His wife, Maxine Zizara, who was 44 at the time, was also found murdered. It shows this guy, he didn't care. He did not care who he killed. This was a classic sign of a sociopath. 2 months later, on May 14th of 1985, he broke into the home of 65-year-old William Doy, located in Monterey Park, and shot him. He also did not survive. From there, in late June, Ramirez broke into the home of Monrovia, California resident Mabel Bell, who was 84. She too was murdered. Continuing his spree across California, on July 2nd, 1985, the Nightstalker killed a 77-year-old widow named Mary Louise Cannon in Arcadia. 5 days later, Ramirez would go on to kill and burgle the Monterey Park home of Joyce Lucille Nelson. She was 61 years old. Max Needing was a particularly brutal case. On the 20th of July, 1985, a mere 13 days later, Ramirez attacked Needing with a machete, but he didn't stop there, because he then drew a pistol and ended up shooting Needing to death. Unfortunately, Max was not the only victim in this assault. Layla Needing, the wife of Max, who was 66, was killed in all the chaos. And to add insult to injury, Richard then burgled their home. But his psyche was starting to break, and he continued his rampage that same day, killing 32-year-old Chainarong Kavanath in his sleep in his Sun Valley home. Although I'm pretty sure I did not pronounce that name right. On August 8th of 1985, the Nightstalker broke into the home of Elias Abelwath to burgle and kill Abelwath. At this point, the mounting pressure became too much for Ramirez, forcing him to leave Los Angeles in August. From here, he fled to San Francisco, where he ended up killing Peter and Barbara Pan on August 17th. With the brutality and satanic symbolism of his crimes, he was not referred to as the Valley Intruder any longer. This is where he was dubbed the Nightstalker, due to a majority of his murders and crimes being carried out at night. The two detectives who were the most instrumental in bringing in the Nightstalker and bringing him to justice were named Frank Salerno and Gil Carrillo, although the way Ramirez was ultimately caught was unique to say the least. Although there were clues left at his crime scene such as shoe prints, it was the survivors that helped to finally identify Ramirez. By this point, details began to pour in, such as his bad teeth, how he wore a distinct jacket, and an eyewitness ended up seeing Richard driving a stolen car, which later would provide a fingerprint. The clues were mounting, and this led to the Nightstalker's face being plastered on most newspapers and television news stations. The time was up. Ramirez was becoming more and more notorious, and he could no longer hide from his murders. The day of August 31st, 1985, according to witnesses, Ramirez was seen at a liquor store in Los Angeles where he noticed his face in the paper. At this time, the police said he took off. With the LAPD hot on his tail with both cars and helicopters, Ramirez felt the pressure and rushed into a local neighborhood and attempted to steal another car. When he was recognized, the neighborhood fought back, attacking the murderer. With the crowd growing, Ramirez took off further down the road, where he attempted to steal another car with the driver, Angie De La Torre, still inside. In a desperate act, he punched Angie in her stomach and obtained the keys when she dropped them. An 85-year-old neighbor named Jose Burgoyne witnessed the entire thing and ran out in an attempt to assist, only to have Ramirez threaten to kill him if he came any closer. In a quote to the Los Angeles Times, Burgoyne said, quote, "I ran to defend her and he told me, 'Don't get closer or I'll shoot you.' I didn't see a gun, so I opened the car door and pulled him out of the car." Unquote. The growing mob of the neighbors closed in on the now trapped killer, helping to restrain the Nightstalker themselves. This included Angie De La Torre's husband, who beat on Ramirez with barbecue utensils. Somehow, though, Ramirez was able to escape the crowd and started to run down the street, with the angry mob continuing to pursue. All the while, some neighbors were shouting, quote, "El Matador." In English, that means the killer. As the chase continued, Ramirez found himself on the receiving end of a metal bar hitting him across the head, causing him to trip. Failing to escape the people he terrorized for so long, the crowd began to beat Ramirez to the point that when police finally did show up, the once infamous killer was relieved, saying in Spanish, quote, "It's me, it's me, it's me. I'm lucky the cops caught me." This was the day that the horror and tragedy that Richard Ramirez had caused had finally ended, as cops took him into custody. It wouldn't be until 1989 that he was found guilty for 5 counts of attempted homicide, 14 counts of burglary, 11 counts of rape, and 13 counts of murder. This led to Ramirez being given the death penalty in the gas chamber. In an attempt to demoralize not only his victims but everyone invested with his acts, he taunted the media, saying, quote, "Hey, big deal. Death always comes with the territory. I'll see you in Disneyland." Unquote. Ramirez would never make it to the gas chamber, though. In 2013, he would die from B-cell lymphoma while on death row at the age of 53. His family made a statement to El Paso Times saying, "We are mourning the loss of our son and brother, Richard Ramirez. The world judged him, whether fairly or unfairly, it no longer matters. He is now before the true judge, the judge that sees and knows all things. We ask that you respect our sorrow and grief." But there is no point in denying it. Richard Ramirez was and will always be one of the most disturbing serial killers and career criminals in history. His brutality, lack of compassion, or resentment for what he did will only serve as a reminder to keep those affected in our hearts, and to learn, yet again, to always be cautious. Alright, that's a brief overview of the serial killer Richard Ramirez, aka the Nightstalker. As always, I'm kind of surprised how long it takes me to research this stuff for such little talking time for this. But first things first, I want to give credit to the sites that I did get my research from. I did write it in my own words, but credit for this goes to biography.com, elpasotimes.com, and britannica.com. So thank you guys for all the information. I kind of compiled it into one little essay. Even then I had to ad-lib a little bit. But let's get into the overview of this. As you guys know, I will not be doing rankings or reviews on the actual true crime part of it, as in like not giving it a score out of 10, because it's not only disrespectful to the victims of the crimes, but true crime is a little different than a creepypasta, a fictional story. There's still people out there that are alive that were affected by this, so out of respect to them, obviously not be doing the score on it. But what do I think of this person? Richard Ramirez is a monster. He's dead now, and I honestly think the way he went out was honestly a better justice than the sentence he got, which was the gas chamber. But I don't want to get into my feelings on this too much, because researching this for the past week, I do feel kind of connected to the case, and I can't stand the guy. I really can't. He almost kind of disgusts me a little more than Ted Bundy when I was doing his research, and his story and his victims list was so much longer. But it's just, he was not brave. I want to say coward, spineless. He attacked people in their sleep. He attacked the strongest one in the family first, not to mention that half of them, 99% of them were elderly people. He attacked the weakest people just because he could. And for that reason, I can't respect him at all. Granted, no one should respect him. This guy was a monster, and this guy deserved. You definitely know he did not go to heaven. He went to the other place. People like this are just as sick as the people that kill 12-year-olds like Ted Bundy. Defenseless people that are weaker than you. He raped people, he stole from people, he killed people, and he also attempted to kill people. And I think that's what made him and his crimes so sloppy. And that's what I think ultimately led to his downfall in the course of a year. A lot of people got away from him. There were like 4 or 5 attempted murders on that list, and you gotta bet one of those people definitely would be able to pick him out in a crowd. So, what do I think of this story? This true crime? I think what everyone thinks when it comes to this guy. He was one of the most prolific serial killers in American history, and I think he got exactly what he deserved. Cancer is not a fun way to go out, and I think he suffered more than he would have in the gas chamber. He would just go to sleep. And a monster like this deserves to honestly feel everything that he gave to people. See, that's what I'm saying. I don't want to get too much into my feelings with this. But thank you again to the 3 websites very much for providing me with the info and the victims so I could get their names out there again to be remembered. And I'm glad I kind of focused on their names a lot of the time too, because this isn't about this monster. This is about the people and the families that were lost and broken apart. So thank you for those information bits, you three websites. We are also going to be going into another segment here, a third segment, third story. It's going to be kind of two stories in one, but I think you guys are going to enjoy this because we are finally going to be coming through with those true paranormal stories. I found a couple online. I am hoping to be doing some more on like cryptid and stuff intertwined within this segment in the future. But for now, we're probably just going to do the true paranormal stories on this episode. So let me pull those up next, and we will get to those. Yeah, I know that was a tough couple stories, but hey, that's the podcast, right? Give me a second here. So in our first story of our paranormal / cryptid stories, we will be covering the legend and lore of the Wendigo. First things first, let's cover the overall description of the Wendigo. It is very tall. It is a pale creature spanning upwards of 8 or 9 feet tall. Through lore, it reportedly gets transformed from a human when they are desperate for food and resort to cannibalism. They are super fast, agile, tall, and vicious. Thought to be located in the north woods of Minnesota and parts of Wisconsin, as well as parts of Canada, the Wendigo has been known to prowl around in many other areas as well. Typically, this cryptid is known to look similar to another known cryptid named the Rake. There are a couple theories as to how a Wendigo is born, whether it be possession or cannibalism. Either way, greed, murder, and cannibalism have always been associated with the Wendigo. Wendigo has been known among Algonquin, Eastern Cree, Naskapi, Innu, Gaytru, and West Main Swampy Cree people who describe these creatures as giants and monsters. Descriptions vary from case to case, but the unspeakable acts it's reported to commit is not. As the Ojibwa quoted, it was a large creature, as tall as a tree, with a lipless mouth and jagged teeth. Its breath was a strange hiss, its footprints full of blood. And it ate any man, woman, or child who ventured into its territory. And those who were the lucky ones, sometimes, the Wendigo chose to possess a person instead. And then the luckless individual became a Wendigo himself or herself, hunting down those he or she had once loved, feasting upon their flesh." Unquote. Many legends say that a Wendigo is created when a human is forced to resort to cannibalism, but other theories suggest it also has a great deal to do with greed, thus allowing the spirit of the Wendigo to possess the host. The general description of the Wendigo include glowing eyes, long yellowed fangs, long claws, and an incredibly long tongue. They are reported to have pale or yellowish skin, but others report that it can also be covered in hair, resembling a Sasquatch, and oftentimes being mistaken for a Sasquatch. They appear to be forever hungry, but they are also skilled hunters and masters of stealth, hunting campers and creatures alike, as if their hunger can never be satisfied. Lore states that Wendigo are cursed to wander the land looking to sate their appetite for human flesh. According to legend, if they do not eat, they will starve to death. It is a theory that the psychiatric term Wendigo psychosis is to blame, as this causes the fear of cannibalism and eventually the act of cannibalism. This is especially prominent in the areas and regions that the Wendigo has been known to be sighted.
though this could be attributed to long exposure to the cold winters of the northern states. Although in my personal experience, I've lived here my entire life, that is not a thing, so I really do dismiss that theory. The disease starts with nausea and vomiting, but eventually dissolves into the irrational need to eat other humans, while at the same time exhibiting a fear of wanting to eat humans. This dates back hundreds of years, with the most typical treatment being traditional healing. Most of the time, this failed, and the Wendigo was subsequently executed. According to legendsofamerica.com, Jesuit Relations documented statement says, quote, "What caused us great concern was the intelligence that met us upon entering the lake, namely, that the men deputed by our conductor for the purpose of summoning the nations to the North Sea and assigning them a rendezvous where they were to await our coming had met their death the previous winter in a very strange manner. Those poor men, according to the report given to us, were seized with an ailment unknown to us, but not very unusual among the people we were seeking. They are afflicted with neither lunacy, hypochondria, nor frenzy, but have a combination of all these species of disease, which affects their imaginations and causes them a more than canine hunger. This makes them so ravenous for human flesh that they pounce upon women, children, and even upon men, like veritable werewolves, and devour them ferociously without being able to appease or glut their appetite. Ever seeking fresh prey, and the more greedily they eat, the more they eat. This ailment attacked our deputies, and as death is the sole remedy among those simple people for checking such acts of murder, they were slain in order to stay the course of their madness." Unquote. In 1878, another documented experience occurred when a gentleman named Swift Runner, who was a plains trapper from Alberta, was subjected to one of the most prominent and well-known cases. In the middle of winter 1878 to 1879, he and his family, as well as other crew families, were subjected to starvation. Swift Runner's oldest son was the first to die of starvation, and then later on, it's thought that Swift Runner became victim to Wendigo psychosis himself. This appears strange because supplies was available a mere 25 miles away, although Runner never made the trip, nor did he attempt to. Instead, he proceeded to murder the remaining members of his family and then proceeded to consume them. He then confessed and was subsequently executed at Fort Saskatchewan. A lot of Indian names in this because this is prominently Indian folklore legend / cryptid. So this appears strange because I already said that. I'm sorry. Another sighting popped up numerous times near the town of Roseau, Minnesota, from the late 1800s to the 1920s. A death soon followed after each sighting until it stopped abruptly. Another instance concerning psychosis dealing with the Wendigo happened to a gentleman named Jack Fiddler, who was an OG Cree chief and a medicine man who was reportedly an expert in dealing with Wendigo. He claimed to defeat upwards of 14 of them in his lifetime. It is told that a number of Wendigo were dispatched by other shamans and that of members of Fiddler's tribe, while others were said to be from his own tribe who were also insatiable to the desire of consuming human flesh. In other instances, Fiddler was tasked with killing his own family members who would have been thought to have turned into Wendigo. This included his own brother, Peter Flett, when he showed signs after the family ran out of food on a trip for trading. Regardless, he and the missionaries thought of the legend as just that, a legend, regardless of the numerous reports of sightings. But his credibility was quickly dashed in 1907 when he was arrested by Canadian authorities on the charge of murder. Him and his brother, Joseph, were both arrested and charged with the crime. While Joseph stood trial and was sentenced to life, Jack ended up committing suicide, and although being granted a pardon, Joseph died in prison a mere 3 days after receiving the news of his pardon. Among the tribes of the Cree, Assabwani, and Ojibwe, a ceremonial dance was, and still is, performed in times of famine to deter the Wendigo's insatiable appetite. As the Native Americans came into contact with the Wendigo more and more, the reports of sightings of the Wendigo dwindled. Wendigo are still sighted to this day. Many reports say they are more prominent in the northern regions of Ontario, Canada, but there have been sightings in Minnesota, Wisconsin, and other locations such as Washington. All these locations have a strong presence or previous presence of Native Americans. These regions have been dubbed the Wendigo capital of the world, although this cryptid has continued to surface into the modern era. Most of this story is credited to legendsofamerica.com. That is where I got pretty much all the information I just told you guys. And with that, that ends the general description, not so general description of the Wendigo. We got a couple personal stories here now. These are all from Reddit. There's not really too many stories out there when it comes to Wendigo because it is such kind of isolated cryptid, for lack of better words. But these are both from Reddit. The first one being by Jane2Go445, and that's on Reddit. So credit goes to you. Thank you so much for this story. I know you didn't really give it to me, but it's my way of citing my work. So this is Jane2Go445 and her story, or his story, on the Wendigo. I'm writing this from a small motel just outside Green Bay. Hey, that's pretty much where I live. Something has been stalking, or more accurately, hunting me, I should say. I don't know what to do, and that's why I'm asking you to help. You all know the legend of the Wendigo, right? Maybe you know it by Wendigo? Algonquin legends describe this entity as a man-devouring beast native to the Atlantic coast and Great Lakes region, as well as parts of Canada. I think that's what's stalking me. It started happening when I moved into my summer cabin past Green Bay. Little things happened at first. My dogs would bark into the woods, but I would see nothing. I didn't think much of it, just that it could be a deer or mountain lion. That didn't worry me because I'm a native Yooper, UP of Michigan native, and have had previous hunting experiences. Mostly, this would happen and my dogs would growl into the woods, but then seemingly forget about it and go romp around in the cabin. Then came the night. As I lay in bed one night, I heard shuffling outside my window. My curtains were closed, but the window itself was open. My breathing hitched as I saw a shadow standing outside my window. Just know that the cabin doesn't have a high ceiling, so the windows are low. So I'm not sure the exact size of this creature. I lay frozen in bed as the shadow stayed there for what seemed like centuries, but could only have been there a few minutes. Soon, the creature the shadow belonged to shuffled away, but not without emitting a guttural growl. This happened every night for the next 3 days. It would appear, stay, and then leave. After the third night of this, I woke up and went to check on my 2 hounds, Eleanor and Chip. I walked around to the back of the cabin where they slept, curled up in their makeshift doghouses. I froze and felt my stomach rise to my throat when I reached their spot. Blood was splattered everywhere, and body parts lay strewn all over the yard. Eleanor's figure lay disfigured and torn apart next to Chip's quivering body. He, thankfully, was unharmed, but shocked and in quite a mental state. What monster would do this? I thought despairingly. No bear or mountain lion, I should say, would dismember a dog like this. I knew what had done this, the creature that stood out my window every night. The strangest thing, however, wasn't the splattered blood or gore, but the pearly white flap of skin next to my dog's corpse. Good old girl didn't go down without a fight. I picked it up and turned it around in my hands. One side was an almost translucent pearly skin, and on the other side, a light bluish blood. I think I dropped it immediately and ran back inside. I grabbed my old hunting rifle and my pack, which contained some food, water, and other camping necessities. The nearest highway was due north, but 38 miles away. But I wanted out of these woods before nightfall. That's when it comes, during night. In the daytime, it stays in the woods, always watching, always following. I let Chip loose and we set off due east, 25 miles away, in a small town, and we couldn't find anything. I could make it, but I would have to haul ass, and if I didn't want to die, that is. Me and Chip walked for the first half of our journey, and then we ran. We made it to the town right before sunset, if you can even really call it a town. There's a gas station, a motel, and a couple summer cabins by the lake. As we emerged from the woods, I heard the scariest sound of my life. The roar was deafening and pissed off. I knew that this wasn't the end of the game. This son of a bitch was playing, but for me, tonight was enough. I am now staying at the motel, where the only residents are the owner, a runaway, a teen, and me. As far as I know, we could be the only people in this residence. I'm scared. So scared. I can feel it watching me, waiting, hunting. If I can survive another day, I will check in, but for now, I can't sleep. The deadbolts on my door will not protect me and Chip. Chip has started to growl at the door. Okay, so that's our first-hand experience for Wendigo. That's a scary one, I gotta say. I mean, yeah, I will cover all of this in the ending of this story as a whole, I should say, but that kind of got me shaking a little bit, to be honest. The next one is going to be really short, and then we will get into our kind of overview and thoughts on Wendigo, as well as reviews of the stories. But this next one is a little bit different. This is also from Reddit. It's from the Skinwalkers Reddit, and the credit goes to a user named Nasabu. So thank you, Nasabu, for letting me use your story, even though you really didn't give me permission. I'm sorry. So here's what happened. Monday, I had a dream. It was me waking up and doing all my morning routines. Weird dream, but it truly convinced me I was awake. When I was going to my car, the most terrifying figure presented itself. My house is backed up to the woods, so out of the trees came a figure skinned completely, dripping blood. It stood about 5 meters tall with 2 legs, very lanky, hunched over, and its head was the worst part. It was a deer skull soaked in brighter red with skin particles and bits everywhere. It was hollow also. It had a hole in the top of its head and big antlers. It was just walking by, and then suddenly it stared right at me with its red beady eyes. I was convinced this was real too. I woke up in a cold sweat around 3:07 a.m. Should I be worried? Was it a Wendigo or a skinwalker or neither? What are the implications of seeing one of them in a dream? That one was a really short story, but that is the story from Nasabu. So thank you very much again for allowing me to read it on this, because there really isn't too much in the way of stories for Wendigo. So I assume this is because it is so indigenous to areas such as mine, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Canada. There's not too many areas where this thing is reported to show up. So, with that being said, what do I think of the Wendigo? I totally believe this thing exists. I mentioned, I don't think I actually did mention it, but it actually is included in a video game that I have played on my other project, 89-Bit Productions, and that is Until Dawn, starring Rami Malek and Hayden Panettiere. So, the Wendigo is a scary creature. I can tell you that without a shadow of a doubt. This thing is not something you want to get mixed up with. This thing is a cannibal, so it will kill you. It is super fast, super strong, agile, and I mentioned that in my research as well. So this thing is not something you want to tussle with. So what do I think of the stories and the research as a whole? My research is my research, so I'm not going to really review that, give that a score, because the research is something I actually wrote myself. I will say I can do a better job than this, so I probably would give myself like a 6 or 7 on the research aspect of it. I am kind of hard on myself, so maybe it could be better. But credit to legendsofamerica.com for my research, because you really did help a lot. There's not really a lot of research or lore on the Wendigo besides the general description of the Wendigo. Now, the Wendigo goes by different names. I kind of mentioned one of them in my research. I didn't write down the other ones, but it goes by Wendigo, and there's actually other names too that come from the Native American legend. And that's what this thing is a Native American cryptid, lore, legend, whatever you call it. But what do I think of the stories as a whole? Jane to Go story, probably, I mean, I'm no expert in writing, but, oh, there's my stomach again, I'm sorry. I think you did a good job. This was a good story, and, I totally believe you. Don't get me wrong, I totally believe you, because this is actually probably the most accurate one when it comes to dealing with my research, but I can also say the same thing about the story from Nasabu, which I will get into in a second. The story here, I would probably give a solid 7 out of 10. And I think I'm being a little generous with that because I did have to ad-lib a little bit. The grammar wasn't the best, but the overall experience was great. Not great, I mean, I don't mean it like that, but it was good. It was written well. It's from my area, so I already have to give you a little a point for that. But this kind of lends to the credibility of this. I mean, this is kind of like Slenderman and what I experienced as a kid, the Hat Man, as something that we only really have firsthand experiences of and what we know from the lore. This hasn't been physically proven to be real yet. Not saying that it isn't real, and I'm not discrediting your experience by any means, because I am absolutely sure that this happened to you. But what would I give your writing on Reddit as a score? Did I say 7? I think I'm gonna jump it up to an 8. I'm not gonna discount you on the grammar because not everyone knows how to write, and I'm not gonna hold that against you. Your story was great, and I would love to hear more if you got more. I'm really, really sorry for the loss of your dog. I actually went through that myself recently. Not as gruesome or not as gory, I might add, but all the same, dogs are family. And it's like losing a family member. So I'm so sorry for your loss. And if you do so happen to get this podcast to your ear, shoot me more messages with more experiences because I will add them in on other podcasts as well. Now moving on to the Skinwalkers Reddit via Nasabu. This was a very short story, but it is also very, very credible in the sake that you described what the Wendigo pretty much looks like to a T. You're not imagining things. I mean, you might be a dream, but I think you saw something. Absolutely. This a skinwalker doesn't really look like this, but Wendigo, in most of the pictures I've looked up online, do resemble like a deer head that's like skinned. It's all bone, hollowed eyes. I didn't hear anything about red eyes, to be honest, though, so that one kind of gets me. But other than that, you're pretty much spot on. I think you saw a Wendigo, dude. So, this one, I would probably... I can't give this a good score. As accurate as you are, I'll give you points for that, but it's going to be a 5 out of 10. It's one paragraph. That's all you gave me. And, I mean, I need more, bro. I just need more. It's a good paragraph. I will say that. So that's why I'm giving you the 5. You got the depiction of Wendigo. It's pretty much spot on. So I can't complain about that at all. So 5 out of 10. I'm going to bump you up to a 6 out of 10 because it wasn't that bad. It wasn't bad. The grammar was a little atrocious, if I'm being honest, but I can't really say much because mine's not anything to scoff at either. So, I mean, 6 out of 10. It was good. The Wendigo has been known to look like that. Hollow, like deer head with antlers, everything. I haven't heard the eye thing, but and the dripping blood thing. I mean, that's a little too creepypasta for me because I'm trying to look for like actual depictions. But if that's what you saw, I am not going to argue with you. That is totally what you saw, and I believe you. But I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10 because I'm not too sure on that one. Now, with that being said, that is the end of our Wendigo research and story. So I want to know what you guys think, and I want to hear it down below in the comments section, or on my Facebook page, or on YouTube, anywhere you can get to me. I even have an email at talesforthedarkcis@yahoo.com. So feel free to send me an email, a message, anything. Just let me know what you think, because I really do care what you guys think about this stuff. But with that being said, we are going to get into the outro for this episode, which will be our shoutouts and a surprise taste test actually today. I know we already had 2, but we just got something in the house today that I've always wanted to try, and I figured it'd be fun to try it on the podcast. So let me pull that out, and let me pull up the new members of our page and our podcast, and let's get into that here. Let's see. All right, so we have a few new members since the last podcast. I don't believe as many as the last podcast, but going from the bottom, going up, we have Ashley W., which actually is another related family member to Sin and Mary. So thank you very much. I feel like I got your entire family liking my page now, which is not a bad thing. I actually really, really
love all the support and love you guys have given. So thank you very much, Ashley. I really appreciate it. And we need to connect again because, I mean, we used to talk in the past, but we really kind of lost touch a while there. So thank you very much, Ashley. This leads to a bunch of new users, which I'm very excited because I haven't had the pleasure of meeting you guys yet, but I really hope we can get to know each other through this podcast. Starting with Jasmine S., joined about a week ago. Thank you very much. I really, really appreciate the support. This leads into our next one, which would be Carly M. I couldn't even pronounce that last name if I was going to, but again, thank you very much. I'm so grateful for your support. That leads us into Stephanie M., which, again, I don't think we've had the pleasure of meeting either. Your name sounds very familiar to me, but either way, thank you so much for giving us a like and becoming a member, because I could not do this without you guys. That leads into Philip M. We got a lot of M's today, huh? I should mention, I do not say last names unless specifically given permission to basically protect your privacy. So, Philip M., thank you so much, man, for joining. I really appreciate it, and I honestly don't really deserve all this attention and all this love. So thank you very much. Leads into P Ha Z. I can't help but pronounce the last name because it's literally Z. I don't even know if that's the real name, to be honest. A lot of people on here do give different names, but I'm sorry if it is a real name and I'm offending you. I'm not trying to. But Piha, thank you very much for joining, because honestly, you guys are the best. I can't do this without you. I've already said that once, but I will say it until my face turns blue. So thank you very much, Piha. That leads into Golthart W. Thank you very much. And if that's your real name, man, that is awesome. So I love that name. Thank you very much for your support, man. Welcome to the podcast, and I can't wait to get to know you better. So that leads into Bayou B. Again, not really sure if that's a real name or not. If it is, very cool. Like it. But I'm also, there are so many cool people on this podcast, I tell you. So thank you very much for joining Bayou. And hopefully, if you get the chance, feel free to drop comments on my page. Give me suggestions on what you want me to cover next. And that's that. Thank you very much, Bayou. And that leads to a couple people that I know near and dear. Not to take away from anyone else, because that's not what I'm doing. But John M., who's actually probably one of my closest friends. He has seen me in my darkest times. He's seen me at my best. So thank you very much, John. I didn't think this would be your thing, and you might be just liking to support me on this, but either way, I could not ask for better friends than you guys. I swear, you are such good people. Such good people. This leads into another near and dear person to my heart. This would be my uncle, Robert Z. Same last name as me. Thank you very much, Uncle Bob. I didn't even think this would be your thing. So, again, if this is just kind of looking to support or either way, I'm really, really grateful for you. And I love you. You've been in my life my entire life. And obviously, since you're my dad's brother. But you are a fantastic person, and I love you. So thank you very much. Now I have to scroll up here because I have a lot of people that aren't joined yet that might be joining later. Let's see here. Alright, this leads into another, probably of one of my closest friends. This would be Josh S. Joshua Tree, I love you, buddy. I mean, we have literally gone through the ringer together, and I mean, I can't think of anyone else that I would consider as close a friend as you, I should say. So thank you very much, Josh. I love you. I hope everything's going well, and stay in touch. I actually saw you just the other day, so keep in touch, man. I love you. You're a good guy. All right. So we got a couple more people, and these are actually all people that I know as well. So starting with Mackenzie D. I actually met her actually through the dating app on Facebook, but the fact remains she's still an awesome friend and an even better person. So thank you very much, Mackenzie. You are fantastic, and well, yeah, you need to stay in touch too, because we kind of fell off the face of the planet from each other. So, but thank you very much, Mackenzie. I really appreciate it. This leads into another kind of adopted family member, and that would be Chris W., husband of Amanda. So I don't know why I couldn't remember that, but he is a very good guy too. Honestly, the entire Amanda, Ashley, Larry clan, it's just a family of great people. And I say that about everyone, but I mean, these guys are really, truly great people. So thank you very much, Chris. I love you, and thank you very much for, supporting me. That leads into another good friend from high school. We got Jordan H. Thank you very much for joining, man. I figured you'd be kind of into this. You never really said anything to me about it, but you just kind of struck me as a person that kind of likes creepy stories. That's not an insult. That's a good thing. We all are here. So thank you very much, Jordan. I really miss you too, and we should reconnect sometime because it's been a long time, dude. And you're an awesome person. So leads into another near and dear friend I actually met when I was working at GameStop, and that would be Mindy P. Mindy, I know for a fact, would totally be into this podcast, so I'm not really surprised that she joined, and thank you very much for doing so, because, we've known each other for a long time, too, and we've gone through thick and thin. I mean, we have some times at GameStop, too, where, yeah, we're kind of not happy, but, I really do appreciate it. We've become closer than ever, and she knows she can come to me for anything, and I feel like I can do the same for her. So thank you very much, Mindy. You are very, very appreciated. That leads into another good friend I actually met at Shell, and that would be Noah L. Noah, I could totally see being into this thing. I've known him for a couple years now, and fantastic person. I say that about everyone I know, but I mean, that's just because I know so many great people. So Noah, thank you very much for the like. Thank you very much for following, and stay in touch because your friendships mean the world to me. So that leads into an old co-worker / manager, and that would be Jenny A. Jenny, I actually worked with at Noodles & Company. She was one of my fine managers over there. And honestly, don't say it, tell anyone, but you're probably one of my favorites too. But Jenny is another great person. She's very talented. She doesn't take no crap from nobody. So she is definitely someone you'd want in your corner. And I really appreciate you, Jenny, and all of our time together at Noodles & Company, because I gotta say, you were part of the reason I stayed as long as I did. So thank you very much, Jenny. I appreciate it, and you. So that leads into our next one, which would be Tatum C. And Tatum, oh, you've been in the family forever. I mean, not particularly my household, but my extended family. You've been friends with my cousin Maddie. I mean, Noah, your brother, is one of my closest friends too. And so that means, to me, you might as well be family too. So thank you very much for your support. You are very appreciated. Thank you very much, Tatum. And that leads into our last one for this episode, which would be Haley K. which is another ex-coworker. I know I have a lot of ex-coworkers and family members on this list, but Haley K, I used to work with at GameStop. And, I mean, I'm a nerd. She's a nerd. That's not a bad thing. I'm not saying that as an insult. Basically, just, we love everything. Video games, anime, basically stuff like that. So thank you very much, Haley. Because, you know, I don't think I have too many people I can relate to this much in this world. So, with you here, it's much better. So thank you very much, Haley. And that concludes our shoutouts for this episode. So before I sign off for the day, I do have one more thing that I want to get into. So let me pull it out here. It's going to be a surprise. I'll actually post pictures of this on the page too. But yeah, I've got a surprise taste test to finish off the episode. I know we already did one earlier in the episode, but this is actually something I've wanted to try for a long time, and I thought it'd be fun to do it on the podcast. These have actually been sitting in my fridge for a couple days now because I wanted to make sure I got this right. So, our third and final surprise taste test for today is going to be Lakeside's hard-boiled pickled eggs. I've always wanted to try pickled eggs. I'm not expecting to like it, but I always wanted to try it. So let me unscrew the cap here so I can pull one out. This is not... that smells rank. Okay, nope. I don't know if I want to try this. Was it expired? No, it's still got a good year on it. Okay. Oh god. Okay, so this is Lakeside's pickled egg. This is eggs packed in vinegar brine. Hard-boiled eggs packed in vinegar brine consisting of water, vinegar, salt, flavoring, citric acid, calcium chloride. Ooh. Well, it definitely smells like it, so... Oh, God. Why am I doing this right away in the morning? Okay. Here we go. It's kind of interesting. I do not know if... Nope. Okay. That second bite did not do it any justice. Oh, I think I gotta spit this out. Oh my god. What did they put in there? Formaldehyde? Oh my gosh. Yeah. Nope, I had to spit it out. So would I recommend pickled eggs to anyone? I would not feed this to my worst enemy. Oh my god. I was expecting so much better. I know it was going to be bad, but I didn't think it was going to be that bad. Oh my god. Oh, it tastes like... Oh, I can't even use that kind of language on this podcast. It tastes like beep. Let's just say beep. Okay. Lakeside's pickled eggs. Stop making your eggs, dude. Because it is not good. I don't even want to finish the other half of this thing. I didn't even finish the first half. Okay, so... Oh, I still got bits in my mouth. Okay, what would I give pickled eggs? Because I'm still trying to get these pieces out of my mouth. It would definitely be a 2. That's going to be a 2. Never again. Never again will I buy pickled eggs. That is horrible. Okay. God. Thank God we're at the end of the episode because I gotta go wash my mouth out with like bleach or something. That's a joke. Alright. Oh god, and the eggs just keep rolling around on my plate. Ugh. Okay, so 2 out of 10 for the eggs. And with that being done, thank God, we are officially done with this episode. So, you guys know the drill. Subscribe, like us on our Facebook page at Tales for the Dark, Creepy Internet Stories, and look us up on CastBox, subscribe there. Also, look up my YouTube, where this podcast will also be posted as well, at Sir Broski on YouTube. So, from the little bat cave, man cave of my room, I appreciate all of you guys. Thank you so much for listening. And that's the episode. I will catch you guys in 2 weeks for episode 4. My name is Devin Zahn. This is Tales for the Dark, Creepy Internet Stories, and I'm out.